I just want to begin first by saying that when this pandemic first broke out in China, then started traveling to Europe and the Americas, it was generally believed internationally by the time it lands in Africa, there will be a disaster. That it will eventually end up like an African epidemic, like malaria, nausea, HIV/AIDS, and so on. But that has not come to pass. And I think as Africans we must congratulate ourselves for having taken measures that has ensured that Africa did not become the major victim of this pandemic. I hear back home we need to congratulate ourselves as Kenyans. I want to congratulate Kenyan people for their patience, their resilience, and caring toward each other. This has helped us to reach this far. Also, we need to convey our condolences to families who have lost their loved ones, and we say that may the Lord rest their soul in eternal peace. We also want to congratulate our medical personnel who have been very diligent in their service to our people. In a very risky line of duty, they have exhibited a sense of patriotism that is unique. Therefore, we need to congratulate them. Some of them have lost their lives in the process of trying to save lives of other Kenyans. We also want to congratulate the Ministry of Health under the leadership of my friend, Honorable Mutai Kagwe, who has continued to guide this country, giving vital information to our people, what needs to be done during this period of time. They may not have been perfect, but nowhere in the world have they been in any country dealing with this. So we thank them and congratulate them. Then our religious leaders, who heeded the call by the government and shut the institutions of worship, whether they are churches, mosques, or temples. We know the kind of stress that this imposed on them. But then they also saw that they had a duty to protect lives of our people. We want to congratulate them. But this pandemic has also produced young heroes in our country. The innovators, young innovators. We have people who are able to produce ventilators, beds, masks, PPEs, and so on in this period of time. It really shows a sense of innovation that our people have, and that given an opportunity, people can excel just along the other youth in the world. Then we want to also thank our small-scale farmers. Let's remember them. Those who produce cassava, potatoes, fruits, maize, millet, chicken, and so on, who have continued to serve our cities and towns during this period of epidemic. From Busia to Kitui, to Mandera, to all over the place, they've done commendable work. Then we have also our truck and van drivers, and border riders, who have provided a critical link between the production and consumption supply chain. Some of them have been doing this thing at great risk to their personal safety. But there's something that we have learned from this, Mr. President. This over-reliance on imports in our country is risky and dangerous. When the world shuts down, like the world shut down, you find yourself in a situation where you're completely helpless. That's the reason why we're saying that made in Kenya and made for Kenya should not just be a slogan, but it must be something that we want to realize. That we must begin to manufacture certain essential things like pharmaceutical products, food products, things like textiles and so on, we need to produce in our country. And that we should move away from over-reliance on imports of essential things. We must have a national list of essential goods and products that must be produced locally. Finally, President, the youth of Kenya, during this period of time, have exhibited exceptional sense of unity and patriotism. Here I want to thank the government for coming up with this Kazi Mashinani, which has provided essential jobs for our youth, which are productive. The President, we need all the time to continue to have this conversation on how to expand our national cake. That our national cake must expand so that we can be able to feed most of our people. The reality is that our population continues to grow exponentially, but we are not producing enough to be able to feed our people. There's too much concern about consumption, taking away from the national cake and expanding the national cake. This itself is actually a recipe for disaster. We must see that this national cake is expanded rather than just taking it from it and going to give it away from other people as alms, throwing it to other people's alms. This is a conversation that we're going to have on another day. But I want to conclude first by thanking the government, the President, for leading from the front during this very difficult period. It has been very difficult to meet physically, like Honorable Mudavadi said, because we don't want the source of infection. It has been difficult. But I'm sure we will manage there, and I hope that we're going to continue to manage going forward. I thank you.
I would like, therefore, to request, I have been asked by the moderators just to spend about 10 minutes, which means about 2 minutes or so for each one of them. I would like to request the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi to start us off.
Thank you, Honorable Matiang'i. Your Excellency, the President, pongezi for gathering us here today so that we can reflect on the state of the nation and also be able to think together on the way forward. Kwa hivyo nasema asante sana. Your Excellency, very important messages have come from the panelists, and I'll just try and summarize one or two things that perhaps may need further reflection in terms of policy development. One is the functions as defined of the national government and the county government. I think the COVID scenario, as bad as it has been to the Kenyan people, has shown that perhaps the fear that we sometimes have that certain functions should not be devolved can be overcome through concerted effort. This is a very good example that we can move forward with. The other thing that I think we must look at is to continuously define the fault lines. in all this conversation, perhaps we needed a very specific approach to what are the fault lines, because it is clear that COVID is not over. So let me be a little bit self-provocative here. Who are the fault lines? Is it the politicians? Are we the fault line in the fight against COVID? Is it some of our institutions? Be it the parliament, be it the county assemblies? Are these the fault lines? Who has been at the forefront in breaching the rules in the fight against COVID? Is it us, me being one of them? And if so, then what can we do so that we as the fault lines can be curbed so that Kenyan lives can be saved? Finally, I would just like to urge the Treasury to continuously review the tax regime so that it can be more friendly to the business community, because we have seen so many institutions go under. The pressure is immense. Some are investors in this room, some are businessmen. Your Excellency, I can tell you, KRA is breathing down the necks of many people. One enters through this door, when you think you are done, the next officer enters through the other door. I think a continuous reflection around the tax regime to make it more business friendly for rapid revival will be very important. And finally, just to urge the Treasury Secretary to look at the debt numbers carefully. He gave us a fairly confident situation, but I think we all know we need to be very, very careful so that we can resuscitate our economy as soon as possible. Apart from that, Your Excellency, it has not been easy for you. Some of us have had very minimal contact with you. We had to keep away. Your life is a matter of national security. So it is understood that for us to hover around you and give you COVID could have been very dangerous for this country. So we thank God that you are here. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Waziri, Your Excellency, President and fellow leaders here. Devastating as it has been, COVID has made us learn some lessons, quite a number of them. You will recall that when we had a few cases in the country, the Judiciary was one of the institutions which immediately scaled down its operations. This is simply because of the crowds that cases attracted court, and where we could not keep distancing. With that, we have come up with quite a number of innovations to be able to continue rendering services to wananchi. And what has come handy is the use of technology. The use of technology, as some other speakers have said, some of the applications we had not even thought of came handy. But I want to point out that there are still a few challenges we need to address as a nation. We are scheduled to have a conference of the National Council on Administration of Justice and review quite a number of things that we need to put in place so that we continue serving, because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. One of the challenges that we have faced is internet connectivity, quite a number of our courts in the country. Other than in the major towns, connectivity is quite a challenge. And yet, we have got to reach those people. So we want to meet. When we meet, we will make recommendations to Ministry of ICT on if there's something that can be done so that we are able to continue serving wananchi. I want to say that with this onset, Of course, it was in our plans, but it accelerated the process. We started e-filing because it was dangerous to have documents being filed physically and delivered to our courts. With that, we started e-filing. It had challenges initially with connectivity, but it has worked very well, and we are very, very happy with the progress that has been made. I want to report that in the Nairobi and the environs, we are now able to file cases electronically, and the judges and judicial officers are able to handle cases and proceed. And in shortly, we will be moving to other parts of the country. So I want to say that the lessons that we have learned, let us utilize that. Let us up our act. For instance, I learned that even the prisoners are very, very happy to have their cases heard while they are seated in prison. So we just need some very, very minor investment in that area to make it possible for the prisoners to connect to courts so that they don't have to be transported to court. And that will be a huge saving. So for me, what I want to say is that we have done fairly well in the circumstances, but I think we can still do better. If we can put our act together, all of us, we are going to be able to overcome this problem. And even after that, let us not lose the lessons we have learned. We have very few, for example, document examiners in the country who are required all over the country, all over the country. With this, the lessons we have learned from the COVID pandemic, we are not going to require those people to travel to courts. We are going to connect with them and have them testify from their offices. The same as the pathologists, the same as the ballistic experts and others. And I think those lessons learned, if we can utilize them, we will go a long way. I want to thank the Kenyans for the cooperation we have had, and let us continue and we will succeed and get this over. Thank you very much.